Good evening. Our top stories this hour. Emery sentenced 5 years behind bars for the Prince of Pot. Bears fate. He's agile and determined, but everyone agrees he can't stay in Whistler. In pursuit of a car thief, a dramatic chase from Coquitlam to Abbotsford.
CBC News Vancouver at 5 with Tony Parsons and Gloria Makarenko.
High-profile pot activist Marc Emery will spend the next 5 years in an American prison. The self-styled Prince of Pot pleaded guilty to selling mail-order marijuana seeds. The plea bargain sentence was well publicized, but there were some surprises as the sentence was handed down in a Seattle courtroom this afternoon. Eric Rankin was there and joins us live. Eric?
Well, Tony, just a short while ago here in Seattle, Marc Emery found out his fate, and there were a couple of twists, as you mentioned. As defense lawyers and prosecutors gathered inside, Emery supporters gathered outside, and despite their demands that Emery be released, that was never in the cards. Emery pleaded guilty last May to selling marijuana seeds by mail into the States. In return for that guilty plea, he was promised no more than 5 years in jail. But it was up to a federal judge to agree. Today, he did, and the prosecution says justice was done.
Mr. Emery was prosecuted because he was the largest distributor of marijuana seeds in North America and certainly into the United States, fueling the fire of marijuana grows and all the violence that we all know is unfortunately associated with the marijuana grows, and that's why he was prosecuted. That's what this case was about.
Now, as I mentioned, there were two surprises. Emery was very contrite in a pre-sentence statement to the judge, promising he'll never do anything illegal again. And the judge, in return, is recommending Emery be returned to Canada to serve out his jail term. I'll tell you what his supporters have to say about all of this at 6. Tony?
Thank you, Eric. Eric Rankin live in Seattle.
Well, it's official. BC's self-proclaimed Prince of Pot has been sentenced to 5 years in an American prison for selling mail-order marijuana seeds in the U.S. Now, Marc Emery's supporters say the next battle is to get him back to Canada to serve his time. Eric Rankin is live in Seattle with the latest. Eric?
Well, Gloria, for the past 4 months, Seattle has been Marc Emery's temporary home, more specifically the federal detention center just south of here. Now, with today's sentencing in Seattle federal court, Emery faces a lot more time in U.S. prison, unless his wife can swing a deal to have the 52-year-old Prince of Pot shipped to a Canadian jail instead.
Free Marc Emery! Free Marc Emery!
This was the scene in downtown Seattle just before Marc Emery's sentencing. Pro-Prince of Pot protesters and less than sympathetic Seattle onlookers.
When you break the law, you break the law.
I mean, if they're breaking federal law, I mean, the law is broken, the law is broken.
Marc Emery's wife and fellow marijuana activist anxiously awaited today's sentencing.
Well, it's certainly nerve-wracking.
The big question today, would a U.S. federal court judge stick to a plea deal worked out between Emery's lawyers and prosecutors? Back in May, the Harper government allowed Emery's extradition to the U.S. on charges he sold marijuana seeds by mail order into the States. Emery pleaded guilty on the understanding he would get no more than 5 years in prison. The U.S. judge could have ignored that, sparking a full trial with a 10-year maximum sentence. Today, a contrite Emery told the judge, "I admit that I was arrogant in flouting United States law. I admit my zealous pursuit of what may be an honorable goal blinded me. I promise to never advocate or condone civil disobedience or ever flout Canadian or U.S. laws again." The judge agreed to keep the 5-year sentence. The prosecution chastised Emery for claiming to be a political prisoner.
Once again today, the only person in the courtroom that inserted Mr. Emery's politics into this case was Mr. Emery.
In a small victory, the Seattle judge is also recommending Marc Emery be allowed to transfer to a Canadian prison. But the actual decision rests in the hands of the U.S. State Department and the Harper government.
They certainly don't care for my husband. They don't care for his politics. They don't care for him as an individual. So my campaign to try and bring him home, I hope they'll be sympathetic to me as his wife, just asking that my husband be brought home to me so we can be together.
Reaction from a celebrity supporter, Canadian-born comic Tommy Chong of Cheech and Chong, who also served time for selling marijuana in the States.
when you think about how ridiculous it is, he's going to jail for a plant that has proven to be effective with MS, proven to be effective with cancer, is proven to be effective with making clothes.
So Eric, how soon could Marc Emery be returned to Canada?
The short answer, not anytime soon. Immediately after today's sentence, Emery's Canadian lawyer applied for what's called a treaty transfer, an agreement with the U.S. that allows some Canadian inmates to be transferred home. But Emery won't be eligible until he moves into his new U.S. prison, designated today by the court in Lompoc, California, south of San Francisco. And that U.S. transfer probably won't happen until spring. Gloria?
Okay, Eric, thank you. That's Eric Rankin live in Seattle.
Marc Emery supporters want him to serve his 5-year sentence in Canada. Today, a Seattle judge agreed to his plea deal for selling marijuana seeds online to Americans. Then Emery stunned supporters, saying, "I promise to never advocate or condone civil disobedience or ever flout Canadian or U.S. laws ever again." Now Ottawa must decide whether to make room for Emery in a Canadian jail.
They certainly don't care for my husband. They don't care for his politics. They don't care for him as an individual. So my campaign to try and bring him home, I hope they'll be sympathetic to me as his wife, just asking that my husband be brought home to me so we can be together.